Hello, my name is Helen Goldie. I'm a clinical pharmacist here at Great Western Medical Practice, and this talk is going to be about cardiovascular disease or CVD. So, I'm going to talk about practical steps to help you protect your heart and keep it strong and healthy. So, tonight we're going to talk about what cardiovascular disease is, risk factors, both things that we can modify and change and things that unfortunately are less changeable, um, methods of prevention, as well as talking through some real life examples. So cardiovascular disease includes everything, as well as heart attacks and strokes. It's one of the biggest health issues we face in the UK, but the really good news is that most cases are preventable, and that means there are things that we can do, realistic everyday steps to protect our hearts and live healthier lives. So cardiovascular disease is common, and we know that prevention strategies work. So this session is about practical and manageable advice where we're going to discuss risk factors, prevention, real life examples of where small changes have really do make the difference to long-term health. Because this is the leading cause of death in the UK, and most cases, like I said, are preventable. So it's not about doing everything perfectly, it's all about making small, realistic changes that can make a really big difference over time. And I'm going to summarize as well some useful resources that you can then go back to and look over after this presentation. So blood vessels, called arteries, help carry blood to your heart, your brain, your lungs, and the rest of your body. Over time, we get fatty material, which we also can call plaques, or you might have heard them called atheroma, can build up in your arteries. So if too much fatty material builds up, your arteries can become damaged and blocked, and this can lead to heart attack, a stroke, and lots of other cardiac conditions. Think of the fatty deposits over time, a bit like limescale in your water pipes. It builds up in our arteries and it makes it harder for the blood to flow and can cause blockages leading to a heart attack or stroke. So a heart attack is a blockage of an artery in the heart, and a stroke is a blocked artery in your brain. Now, you can see from this picture that there are lots of coronary arteries, and the heart is quite a complex system. Your circulation is a system that controls the blood flow around your entire body. So heart disease or circulatory disease is any condition that affects your heart, blood vessels, or your circulatory system. So heart and circulatory diseases like heart attacks and strokes are really serious. They cause a quarter of all the deaths in the UK each year, and this is why it's so important to take care of your heart. So by making healthy choices, you can reduce the build-up of that fatty material in your arteries. And the good news is that there are plenty of small, easy changes you can make to protect your heart. So like it says at the bottom there, small changes make a big difference. You may be more likely to get heart and circulatory diseases if you have risk factors. Risk factors are conditions or habits that increase your risk of developing a disease. Now, the good news is that many heart and circulatory diseases are caused by risk factors that can be controlled, treated, or changed. And we refer to these as modifiable risk factors. Now, there are some risk factors you cannot change, and these are non-modifiable risk factors. But as we can see, the good news is that there's much fewer of those than the modifiable risk factors. But still, there are lots of things we can do to reduce your risk. So if we think about non-modifiable risk factors first, age. As you get older, your risk of heart attack and stroke goes up. And this is because of changes in your circulatory system. For example, the inside walls of your arteries may become narrowed by the buildup of fatty material that we've just talked about. Your family history. You may have a higher risk if someone in your family, particularly if they're a first degree relative, so a child, a sibling, or a parent, has a heart and circulatory disease like a heart attack, a stroke, or other heart conditions. And then there's ethnic background. We know that people from a Black African or African Caribbean or South Asian background have a higher risk of developing high blood pressure or type 2 diabetes that contribute to our risk of cardiovascular disease. If you already have a heart condition and you're living with that at the moment, then it may increase your chances of having a heart attack or a stroke, and that increases what we call our background risk. So there are plenty of risk factors we know that are modifiable. The first one is high blood pressure, also known as hypertension. It's when the pressure inside your arteries is always higher than it should be. And this means your heart has to work harder to pump blood around your body. And over time, it can damage your arteries, making them stiff and narrow, and can cause fatty material to build up. So that's something that we can control through lifestyle interventions or medication if necessary. High cholesterol is when you have too much bad cholesterol in your blood, and we'll talk a bit about the breakdown of the different types of cholesterol later. That fatty material is going to build up in your arteries, narrowing them, occluding the blood flow, and increasing your risk of a heart attack or a stroke from blockage. Type 2 diabetes happens when your body does not make enough of a hormone called insulin. It causes high levels of glucose in your blood, and this can damage your arteries, increasing your risk of cardiovascular disease. Weight, living with excess weight or obesity is something that's happening more and more commonly in society, and this increases your cholesterol levels and your blood pressure. So two of those other modifiable risk factors. You're also more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, and we know that eating foods high in saturated fats, sugar, and salt contribute to weight gain. They contribute to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. Smoking status. Chemicals in cigarettes and other smoking products damage your blood vessels, including the arteries that carry the blood to your heart and your brain. It is the single biggest modifiable risk factor. If you stop smoking, that will significantly reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease. And we'll talk about all of these things later on. Drinking too much alcohol can increase your risk of a heart attack or stroke. It can lead to vascular dementia, arrhythmias, which is an abnormal heart rhythms, heart failure, and type 2 diabetes. Inactivity, not enough movement during the day, can increase your chances of developing high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and type 2 diabetes. Feeling stressed, and this is the society we live in now, there's a lot of chronic stress will lead to heart and circulatory diseases. We know it's really bad for our health, but it's going to make you more likely to make choices that are bad for your health as well, like overeating or drinking more alcohol. So it can be a contributory factor in lots of ways. Okay, so what can we do to help and modify those risk factors we just talked about? Healthy eating is a really, really great place to start. In a really simplistic way, down the side there, small swaps, big impact, more fruit, veg, whole grains and oily fish, and cutting down salt and sugar and processed foods. The diagram on here, I'm not expecting you to be able to read it on the side necessarily, but it's something you can look up, Eat Well Guide. And this, it just gives you an idea of the sort of proportions that we're looking for of the different food groups on our plate in a day. So it shows much of what we eat overall should come from the three different food groups there, actually four, sorry. You don't need to achieve this balance with every meal, but try to get the balance right over a day or even a week. So there's a green part of the plate, that's our fruit and veg. Most of us still are not eating enough fruit and veg. They should make up just over a third of the food that we eat each day. Aim to eat at least 5 portions of a variety of fruit and veg each day, and choose from fresh, frozen, tinned, dried, or juiced. Fruit and vegetables are a really good source of vitamins, minerals, and fibre. So remember that fruit juice and smoothies should be limited to no more than combined total of 150 mils a day. And then we've got the yellow part of the plate. These are starchy carbohydrates, potatoes, rice, pasta, bread, and other starchy carbs. They should make over about a third as well. We want to choose higher fibre or whole grain varieties where possible, so such as whole wheat pasta, brown rice, or simply leaving the skins on our potatoes. There are also higher fibre versions of white bread and pasta that you can buy in the shops these days. Starchy foods are a really good source of energy and the main source of a range of nutrients in our diet. So they absolutely do have their place, but we want to make healthy choices, but within that category. The pink part of the plate is our protein. It's beans and pulses, fish, eggs, meat, as well as other proteins. They are a good source of vitamins and minerals as well. Pulses, such as beans and peas and lentils, are good alternatives to meat, because they're low in fat and they're a really good source of fibre as well as protein. We want to choose lean cuts of meat and mince and eat less red meat and processed meat like bacon or ham and sausages. We want to aim for about 2 portions, so 2 lots of about 140 grams of fish every week, one of which should be oily, such as salmon, sardines, or mackerel. Then they've got the blue part. The blue part is our dairy and alternatives. So milk and cheese, yogurts, fromage frais are good sources of protein and some vitamins. They're also an important source of calcium, which keeps our bones healthy. Want to try and go for lower fat and lower sugar products where possible, like semi-skimmed or skimmed or 1% fat milk, reduced fat cheeses, or plain low fat yogurt. Do need to be careful because some of these low fat options do mean that they like to put more sugar in them. So I might just draw your attention to that top left hand corner of that diagram where you can see the different coloured labels. The different coloured labels are really quick and easy way of eyeballing whether something is good or better than another product and the overall sort of healthiness of it. So we want to be sticking to labels that are green or amber and really avoiding those red ones. The purple part of that plate, this tiny little slither, is for oil and spreads. Unsaturated fats are healthier fats and include vegetables, rapeseed, olive and sunflower oils. Remember, all types of fat are high in energy and so they should be eaten in relatively small amounts. Eat foods high in fat, salt, sugar less often and in small amounts. If you can give them up, then brilliant, but that's quite a big ask for most of us. So things like chocolate, cakes, biscuits, sugary soft drinks, butter, ghee, and ice cream. We don't need them in our diets, so we should really be eating them less often and in much smaller amounts. And there they are, hiding at the bottom of that diagram. Drinking plenty of fluids. Now, the government recommends about 6 to 8 cups or glasses a day of water, low-fat milks, lower sugar or sugar-free drinks, and tea and coffee. They all count. Fruit juice and smoothies also count towards your fluid consumption, but they contain free sugars that can damage teeth. So it's really important to limit these drinks to a combined total of 150 mils a day. A healthy diet is not just about what you eat, it's also about how much you eat. So getting portion sizes right is a really key part of eating well and keeping to a healthy weight. So a quick and easy way to measure portions is to use your hand. Tips for getting the right portion size is if you look at a big dinner plate, put leftovers into a food container straight away so you're not tempted to eat more than you need. Maybe just swap your big plate for a small plate. Stop yourself from overloading your plate with food. And if you're still feeling hungry, just wait 20 minutes before eating more because it can take a little while to feel full after eating. Most of us, being realistic, is cutting down rather than cutting out. So sometimes when people want to feel healthier, cutting out all sugar or processed foods is great, but it's quite difficult to maintain and it's such a big change. So instead, why not try cutting down on some of the unhealthy food that you eat? And over time, those will generally reduce more and more. So eat your favourite daily treat like crystal chocolate once every other day at first rather than every day. You could swap it for fruit or a small handful of unsalted nuts. Have less, like 1 sugar in your tea or coffee instead of 2. And maybe just add a bit less oil when you're cooking and avoid adding salt to things that you cook as well. So adults should eat less than 6 grams of salt each day, which is about 1 level teaspoon. Less than 30 grams of sugar a day, so that's 7 cubes of sugar or around 7 teaspoons. Look out for foods high in saturated fat, can help you make healthier food choices and reduce your cholesterol. Ultra processed foods and processed foods that have ingredients not normally used in home cooking. So if you can cook your meals at home, then that's already a really great start. But they generally ready meals and ultra processed foods like takeaways will contain a lot of preservatives, emulsifiers, sweeteners, artificial colorings and flavoring. So just watch out as they may try and lure you in. Look at food labels, like I said, and they should also have information about portion sizes too.